Welcome back everybody, this is Tyler Weeb from Pro Physique, and in today's video we're going to talk about cardio and fat loss. Alright, welcome back everybody. I hope you're all having a fantastic start to your 2020. I know I am. It's been a great, absolute fantastic start. Right now it is absolutely freezing over here, about 15 degrees Fahrenheit. There's snow, there is wind, it is cold, definitely miserable, not going outside anywhere. But before we go ahead and jump into today's topic, just make sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you're not missing out on any future content. And if you would like to see any topics discussed in future videos, make sure to go ahead and go over to my Instagram, shoot me a DM, and I'd be more than happy to get to those in future videos. But today's topic, I wanted to talk about cardio and fat loss, and basically how do we use cardio to induce fat loss? How do we manipulate cardio? What type of cardio? What should it look like throughout the week? Can you, front load your cardio? All of those things I kind of want to cover today so I can help give you a blueprint moving forward with, any fat loss phases that you might be getting into this year or might be already in. And maybe you're already seeing some plateaus and you're already going, okay, what do I do? How do I change my cardio? So let's go ahead and jump into it. So the main mode of cardio that I really like to use for all of my clients, whether they're in prep or whether it's just a general fat loss phase, is steady state cardio. So I do believe that this is best done on an incline treadmill, and why we use steady state cardio is because of the intensity of it. So because it is a much lower intensity mode of cardio, the primary fuel source of that cardio is going to be body fat. So kind of what you burn depends on the intensity of that exercise. So when you are lifting and you're training hard and you have short bursts of energy, you're primarily using carbohydrates. When you start a steady state cardio session, the body will start kind of with carbohydrates, but then as time goes on, and as long as that intensity stays right kind of in that lower end, if you're looking for something, think around 135 beats per minute on your heart rate, the body will shift to body fat as its primary energy source. So we do have that shift as we start to increase the time, and as long as that intensity stays right where it's at. So that is why it's my favorite mode of cardio for fat loss, because you're using body fat as an energy source, as its main fuel source. The only downside of that is that you do need to have time to be able to devote to that, right? So you do need to have at least 20 minutes as that body starts to shift over. Roughly around that 15 to 20 mark, we really start to see that shift over into more fat being used than carbohydrates. So you do need to have time. And then again, it's just going to be added on as the body gets used to that amount of cardio. And so if you're not in prep, you do need to be careful watching that time if you just don't have a lot of it, because you can quickly find yourself up 3 hours a week, 4 hours a week of some steady state cardio depending on how things are going. But it is going to be the best source for body fat being used as its primary source. Now, you can front load it. It can be a great thing if you have a lot of cardio, especially if you're in prep. Cardio can get quite high. And so if you have a day where, you've got plenty of time, you're not training, let's say Sunday morning. Not a lot of people train Sunday morning. There really isn't a lot going on. Go do 2 hours of cardio. Go do an hour and a half of cardio. That's okay. You can front load it to help you get a lot of it done before you go into the week. So steady state cardio is probably definitely going to be your best source of cardio. It also helps with recovery because you're not going super high intense with something like high intensity, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So steady state cardio, start off with, it's going to be depending on how much you are currently doing. But if you haven't been doing any cardio whatsoever, start by adding in, a 30-minute session once a week. That's it. You still got to manipulate your food to create that caloric deficit like I've talked about in the past. But for the sake of today and keeping this a bit shorter, we're just going to talk about cardio. Add a little, 30 minutes, see what happens. And then you can kind of go from there at 20-minute increments, I think. If you want to be a bit more aggressive and you do have the time on your hands, that's going to be okay too. But incline treadmills, I find, is just the easiest and the best. around 135 beats per minute. It's just a nice little sweat going, but you should still be able to hold a conversation while you do it. All right, so steady state is going to be one of the better ones. Now we also, on the other side of the spectrum, we have HIIT cardio, which rose to quite a bit of popularity over the last few years when some research came out showing that it had the exact same benefits as steady state cardio, but half the time. As more and more has come out, that may not be the case. It may not be the exact same. Steady state cardio is probably still going to be a little bit better in terms of overall body fat loss. But the great thing about the high intensity cardio is that you do cut down on the amount of time that you have to do cardio. So for someone who is maybe, just doesn't have a lot of time in the day to get everything done, training, life, cardio, HIIT cardio can be a great supplement to steady state cardio with that in mind of, okay, we're still going to get the benefits, but we're really cutting down on the amount of time that you are doing cardio, which can be absolutely fantastic for people with really busy lives. So for this, the sprints should be no longer than 30 seconds. If you are doing HIIT sprints longer than 30 seconds, that is not HIIT cardio. 20 to 30 seconds, if not even sometimes 10 seconds to 15 seconds should be right where you are, because these sprints are all out. You should hit that second mark and not be able to do another second if someone even had like a gun to your head. That's how hard you need to push yourself. So I think that's where a lot of people fall into the trap of they just don't push themselves hard enough with this, because I don't think they understand how hard they can push themselves and they have to push themselves. So that's what I always tell my people, is that it is a life or death sprint. Then you hit that, you recover, and then you go again. So ideally, I'd like to recommend 20 to 30 second sprints on a spin bike, because that's very easy to adjust the resistance. And then you do about a minute 30 to a minute 40 recovery. And it's always good to start off with maybe 4 to 6 sprints, depending on, your level of, how highly trained you might be. Someone who might be very detrained, probably not the best idea to do a ton of HIIT sprints or any HIIT sprints. If you are a fairly active person, you are quite trained, your cardiovascular system is, good, then HIIT sprints are definitely something that you can look to include in your training regimen. The only problem that you do have to be careful with is recovery. Since they are so intense, they do take a little bit longer to recover from. So I do recommend maybe doing these after your leg days and not before a leg day, so that you just aren't completely destroying your legs for your next leg day. So something that can definitely be added in and really good. But you do want to watch how much you are doing. You probably should be doing no more than 3 to 4 days a week of HIIT cardio, and those should be no more than seven sprints each. So you do have to be careful with that, and you can't just like steady state cardio keep adding in. There is a line where you are going to need to stop adding in, because your recovery just won't be there, and you just can't push yourself that much. So we have steady state cardio, we've got high intensity cardio, and we do have in the middle medium steady state intensity cardio. Now, this is something that I don't necessarily utilize a lot of, as you are kind of in that in between, and I don't think really has a lot of benefit in terms of fat loss. I think that could be more utilized potentially during a reverse phase where, maybe you still want to keep cardio in, but you don't want to spend all the time, doing the steady state cardio because you're not in a fat loss phase. But you just don't feel like, maybe you got other stuff that you're doing that's higher intensity outside of the gym, stuff like that. But you still want to do a little bit of cardio to help with hunger, glucose levels, etc. So medium intensity steady state cardio can be perfect for that, is that you just kind of have a blend of the two. On the Stairmaster, pushing your heart rate to around 145, 150, so you're breathing, you're sweating, but you're not killing yourself, but it's not so boring or slow like steady state cardio. And that can be absolutely perfect, I think, during the off season, where maybe you do 2-3 times a week just to keep your your cardiovascular levels up. Cardio is so good for heart health as well, so you have those benefits too. So that's something that I don't know if I would utilize during a fat loss phase, just with some experimentation with my clients and myself, and just more in a reverse phase. Alright guys, that is going to be everything for today. So a little bit of a longer one, but just kind of wanted to give you a brief overview of just how to use cardio, what it looks like, how to manipulate it, change it, and maybe when it's best to use in different phases. So that is going to be everything for today. So thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your Monday.